In this video, I want to discuss how things have changed since this whole CGC scam has come to light and just rocked the comic book collecting world. And I think, in a nutshell, it depends on who you are on how this scam is going to affect you. Different people are affected different ways. Myself, for example, and other collectors that are, seasoned veterans of the trade, know the ins and outs of CGC grading and have been doing this for years, we're not so affected by this scam. I mean, we've always been aware of slabs that have been tampered with, and maybe we're a little more hyper vigilant about certain books, your Hulk 181s, your ASM 300s, 194s, 238s, the books that showed up on that list, the easy target books. Certainly I'm, more hyper vigilant about that now than I was before, but we've always been hyper vigilant about tampered with cases and books. It's never been the case where I would buy inventory and just blindly take a picture of it and put the book on my site. Always, from the beginning, every single book is examined before I sell it because I stand behind it. I stand behind every single book that I sell. So in that sense, nothing has really changed for me. But if you're somebody in the hobby who, is a more casual collector, who completely relies upon the label, the grade that CGC gives it, and doesn't have any knowledge of how grading works or anything like that, then you're going to be affected by this scam a lot more, than the seasoned collector. And this thing is constantly evolving. We're not even anywhere near the end of where this whole scam thing that's brought all this to light. There's going to be a lot of changes. There's going to be a lot of developments that happen over time. And, as a dealer, of course, we're monitoring the situation very closely, and, we'll make adjustments as they come. I mean, as CGC will probably, make some more announcements and talk about new cases, I'm sure there will be, more developments that happen over time. And so where all of this is coming from for me is somebody commented and had just had an honest question and just said, how can you possibly expect to sell any slab now that there's this CGC scam? And I just wanted to, touch on that a little bit and give some perspective. So first of all, I have seen zero impact in sales after this scam. Zero. If you go to my website and you see the books are, continuing to just fly off the shelf. Like, there's been no impact on sales. Also, when you look at what books were affected by this, I mean, when you look at the grand scheme of the numbers, I mean, most books that trade hands every single day are not affected by this scam. And what I mean by that is, your $100 book, your $200 books, those are the books that most CGC graded books are in that range. There's millions and millions and millions of CGC graded books, and most of them wouldn't qualify for the scam. And so what I wanted to do today is go through another recent pickup that I have and talk about, which books shouldn't even be on your radar for the scam, which books you should, be hyper vigilant about, and some things you can do to make sure that the book that you're buying isn't a part of this scam and you can have confidence in it. And we're going to talk about this book. This is one of the books that I just bought, a Hulk 181 8.5, and we're going to talk about how I was able to confidently purchase this even after all of this information has come to light about the scam. So we'll get into this here in just a moment, and I actually already sold this book. I already bought and sold this book. So the way this one worked out is somebody had just happened to reach out to me a few days before I bought it and says, hey, I'm looking for a Hulk 181 8.5. If you happen to come across one, let me know. I got one in like 2 days later. It's kind of odd how that happened, but it's not the first time something like that has happened. He messaged me and I said, hey, I got the Hulk 181 8.5 if you're interested. And the first question he asked was, how do I know it wasn't part of the scam? And I went through and explained to him how I knew it wasn't part of the scam, and he has complete confidence in buying this book. And if I didn't have complete confidence in it, I wouldn't sell it. And so on that note, like, if you wanted to buy a Grail from me, I have to be really careful about having a blanket policy about you know, cracking books out because I can't get scammed. I have to be hyper vigilant about not getting scammed myself. What I think I can say is if you want to buy a Grail from me, and it's a, you know, it's a case-by-case basis because each book is a little different, but let's say for example, if you wanted to buy this book right here with the intent to crack, press, and resubmit it, I can guarantee that this book is unrestored and complete, that it's not missing the Marvel value stamp. I can guarantee that if you let me crack it out or if you have CGC crack it out themselves. If you crack it out, at that point it's like, well, you know, how do I know that you didn't switch the book out with a qualified version? But if you let me do it or if you let CGC do it, then I can 100% guarantee that it's unrestored and complete. So at that point, if I crack it out and we see that it's complete, maybe we do it on camera together, and again, this is a case-by-case basis with the customer and the book itself, then I can send it off to your presser if you want to have it pressed, or CGC, and we'll have to have something in place to make sure that, you know, there's a chain of command. Maybe we notate certain flaws on the book. The point is, call me, reach out to me. If you want to buy a Grail, you know, I'm very accessible. And I think that's one of the big takeaways with this whole thing is who you buy from is so important now. And, you know, I'd like to see some transparency from auction houses and things like that about how they're addressing this. You know, you know, I'm sure that they have systems in place to make sure, you know, that they can stand behind the products that they sell, but I would just like to see, you know, some transparency, some videos from them showing like, hey, this is our process, this is what we do, to, you know, instill some faith in people. Now, the thing about auction houses is I've had experiences, and I've almost done videos on this, where, you know, they've sold books that clearly are not 9.8s. Like, it would be like a high value 9.8 that has like a major flaw in it. You could see it right in the pictures. And I thought about doing a video once, like, of you know, just things to be aware of when you're purchasing these big books. I had an experience once from an auction house where I bought a book that I couldn't tell in the pictures because it only had a picture of the front of the slab, and when I got it in the mail, in the back there was a total defect right here. The inner well of the slab had caused a bend. You can see right there, these cases are inadequate and they can sometimes damage books, and it had shifted and there was a big bend in the back, and it was like a $3,000 book. I contacted the auction house and said, you know, hey, this book is damaged, I can't accept it, and I had to return it, and they honored the return. So my point is, who you buy from is more important now than ever. So as this thing continues to evolve, we'll continue to address stuff as it comes up, but let's go through this new stack of books and talk about how some of them are just completely not even something that you should worry about, and just kind of the process of, you know, screening books before they're sold on the website. And it's also important to note that I have never once, not one time in all my years of selling thousands and thousands and thousands of books, not once have I had a situation where a customer cracked the book out, pressed, resubmitted it, and it was either restored or qualified. Not one time. That one video I did about the Hulk 181 that was 9.0, that was Harvey's, that was missing the Marvel value stamp, I didn't sell that book. That was Harvey's book. It was a situation that happened somewhere else. I was just doing that video for him. So, you know, I think that puts a little bit of perspective on it, is like, I've never had an issue with a book that I've sold because of this. And every single book that is sold is thoroughly inspected. You know, I inspect that, you know, there's no damage to the case, and if there is, I notate it. And if there's, you know, debris in the case, or if the book has shifted. I mean, there's been times when I get books, you know, relatively rare, but sometimes I'll get books in a collection and I say, hey, I can't accept this, I can't purchase this book from you. It's no longer the grade that it was given when it was graded. Like, sometimes somebody can put a book, I've had a situation where a book was completely faded because the person had it up in the window and the sun faded the book, and, you know, they tried to sell it to me in a collection. I don't think there was any malintent, they just didn't know that, yeah, sun fading damages the book. It's no longer that grade on the label. And I've had other situations where, you know, there's damage inside the book. So every single book is inspected before it's sold, and I've never once had a problem. When we have problems sometimes with, like, you know, books getting damaged in shipping, and every single time, you know, we make it right. So with that said, let's take a look at the stack of books. We have a really awesome Whatnot show scheduled for tomorrow, if you're watching this the day it comes out, Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. All of these books are gonna start at $1, and we're also gonna have a ton of giveaways. There's tons of signature series stuff, and it's gonna be a ton of fun. Link down in the description for $15 towards your first purchase if you're new to Whatnot. So let's start with the big boy right here, Hulk 181 and an 8.5 from 1974, first appearance of Wolverine. And the first thing I do when I purchase a Grail like this is I take a real close look at the book and make sure that the book matches the grade. Like, does this look like an 8.5? And this is where, you know, you have to have a little bit of knowledge about comic books and the hobby itself. But, you know, one thing you can do is go and compare to other 8.5s. There's lots of 8.5s of this, so you could just go look at other 8.5s that are currently listed and just see, like, does this book present, you know, relatively similar to other 8.5s if you weren't, you know, just able to look at this and say, yes, this is an 8.5. So I would say that 8.5 is an accurate grade for this. If you take a look on the spine, we have some minor spine stress lines. And then also right here, it's kind of hard to see, there's a reader's crease, a very light reader's crease right here. And then there's also like a little bend right here on the back of the book. So all of those things combined, I think that this book is like an 8.5. I think if it didn't have the little reader's crease right here, which is very minor, and it was just those spine ticks, you know, you'd be looking at like a 9.2. But because of those defects, it drops it down to about an 8.5. Now, the next thing that I did with this book is I took the cert number and I went and looked at the list that CGC posted, and I'll put up on the screen a link to the actual list. I think it's cgc.click/HTI or something. I'll put it up on the screen where you can go and look when you're buying a Hulk 181, make sure it's not one of those books that was on the list. Also ASM 300, ASM 194, and books like that. So the next thing that I would do is check the grader's notes if there are any. So here are the grader's notes: crease bottom of back cover, crease left bottom of back cover, crease right bottom of front cover, and spine stress lines break color. So we already saw the spine stress lines that break color. Let's see if we can find the crease bottom of back cover. That would be this one right here. There's a small crease right there. Crease left bottom of back cover. So it's kind of hard to see, catch it in the light, but yeah, there it is right there. So there is the crease left bottom of back cover, and those things are actually both things that could be worked on. And then crease right bottom of front cover, you can see it right there. So grader's notes are not complete or exhaustive. They don't have to put everything in there. Sometimes there isn't any, which is really frustrating. So, I mean, this one might be somewhat of a good candidate for Crack Press Resubmit to try to go for like a 9.0, but this wasn't in the grader's notes, the little reader's crease right there, and I think that that might be a limiting factor, so I don't even know if it is a good candidate. I wouldn't crack it myself, but somebody more brave than me maybe would. So that's the process I went through for this one to conclude that the book inside is the book. Alright, so here's a bunch more. Here's a Star Wars one at 8.5 white pages. You know, this, in my opinion, any book like of this caliber just wouldn't be worth it. Like, they would, an 8.5 I wouldn't worry about. You know, if it was a 9.8, I'd take a much closer look. I mean, the case looks good. It looks like an 8.5. But if it was a 9.8, you know, I would be inspecting like all of the seals around the book and doing, you know, a thorough check and checking the notes and just making sure, because that's like a $3,000 book. But for something like this, I don't think it even applies. Same with this book, 8.0 newsstand, custom label, first appearance of Venom. This book, that, you know, 9.6, 9.8, you do need to be hyper vigilant on and would do all of those checks. But for an 8.0, it just wouldn't be worth the time and hassle to do the scam on. Same for this book, it's low enough grade and low enough value. Same for this book. Even a 9.8 of this book I wouldn't be too concerned about. I don't think anyone's going to spend their time, you know, trying to scam a 9.8 of this. I think they would go for bigger books because of the investment and everything that they have to go through. Marvel Spotlight 3, same thing. The rest of these books, I'll just tell you, well, actually there's a couple more that were bigger dollar items. Sonic the Hedgehog, Tangle and Whisper Zero. This was the promotional giveaway, kind of a hard to find book, surprisingly expensive. Iron Fist 14, first appearance of Sabretooth. I don't think it's high enough caliber. Same with this book, Hero for Hire #1 of 4.0. Same with this book, Marvel Spotlight 2, Origin first appearance of the Werewolf by Night. Daredevil 131. So I would pay close attention to a 9.8 and just look at the case more. This book definitely, you know, requires close inspection and to know what you're looking at. So it's Marvel Spotlight 5 and a 7.0, origin and first appearance of Ghost Rider. So, you know, the first thing that I do is just check that it looks like a 7.0. And first glance, first impression, it looks actually much nicer than a 7.0. So, and then upon closer inspection, you'll see some creases right here in the top corner. These are limiting factor. There's 2 large 1-inch creases. If it was just one 1-inch crease on the front cover, I think it would tap out in an 8.5, but there's 2, and then you have other things like spine stress lines and stuff like that. So it's just a beautiful presenting 7.0, but it definitely looks like a 7.0. And for me, you know, that's close enough inspection when you couple it with, you know, looking at all the seals, checking to make sure, you know, there's no glue, also checking to make sure that the book hasn't shifted in the case and got damaged up here. You know, this is, and then also looking for, like, you know, debris inside the case and things like that. This process, I mean, to do this book, I mean, it shouldn't take more than like a minute once you're really good at it. So, you know, it's not difficult to do for an entire box of books. You just check, inspect, and make sure that they're good to go. So this book right here is really awesome to see come through the shop. I think I've only seen it like one other time. This is the origin and first appearance of the Silver Age Green Lantern and Hal Jordan, the first appearance of Abin Sur and Carol Ferris. It's a 2.0. This one is super easy to verify. You just check the notes. You just check the notes real quick and it says multiple binder holes, full left of whole book through book. That's all you need to do because it has these 2, you know, binder holes in it. So that one's a no-brainer, obviously not scammed. This one, I don't think anybody would go through the trouble for this grade. Hawkman #4, origin and first appearance of Zatanna. Detective Comics 359, origin and first appearance of Batgirl. Aquaman 11 4.0, first appearance of Mira. Flash 139 6.0, White Pages is an awesome addition on this one. Origin and first appearance of Professor Zoom, the Reverse Flash. Justice League of America 29, first Silver Age appearance of Starman. Gambit #1 in the 9.8 white, the gold edition. Now this is one that I would take a quick look at and just make sure it does look like a 9.8. It'd be really hard to pass anything other than a 9.8 off because a defect, a spine tick on this all black back cover would probably not result in 9.8. Also on this one, it's coming full circle. I sold this once before, so I already did the check the first time I sold it. I did a trade with that person. Marvel Spotlight 5, this one's a 6.5, signed by Roy Thomas, origin first appearance of Ghost Rider. And since this one is a signature series and it looks like a 6.5, and I do a quick examination of the case, I wouldn't have any hesitation buying this book. You know, Roy Thomas, I've seen Roy Thomas's signature enough times to know that that is exactly what it looks like. This just doesn't raise any red flags to me whatsoever. So on this book, you know, I didn't feel the need to go much further than just making sure that it wasn't damaged inside the case and make sure that the case is still in good condition. Brave and the Bold 54, origin and first appearance of the Teen Titans. Blue Beetle #1, first appearance of The Question. Captain Atom 83, first appearance of the Blue Beetle. Tales to Astonish 55 and a 6.0. And Fantastic Four 36 and a 3.0, first appearance of the Frightful Four and Medusa. Silver Surfer #3, first appearance of Mephisto 2.5. White pages on this copy. This one didn't raise any red flags because who would try to scam for a 2.5? And it's just a beautiful presenting 2.5. There's obviously some major structural flaws, but it presents beautifully for the grade, and get that white pages, which is an awesome addition. Showcase 55, the first solo Golden Age Green Lantern in the Silver Age, and the first appearance of Solomon Grundy. This was just cool to see. Batman 3 Jokers, all the 1 in 25 variants for issues 1, 2, and 3, signed by both Jason Fabok and Jeff Johns. And this one signed by Brad Anderson as well. Just a really cool set, an affordable set too. Hulk 180. So this is a red flag book that you want to, make sure has the Marvel value stamp, and this one in particular, though, being that it's a 5.5, I don't think anybody's going to try to scam this one. So aside from making sure that it looks like a 5.5 and that there's no damage to the case, you should be all good on a book of this caliber. Hulk 182 and a 6.0. Amazing Spider-Man 48 and a 5.0 with a custom label. So I spoke too soon about there not being any other books that, were questionable, because there's a couple other big boys in here I forgot about. New Teen Titans #2 and a 9.0 white. Strange Tales 180 and an 8.0. Love this character, first appearance of Vigilante and Adrian Chase. New Teen Titans Annual #2 and a 9.8 white. And so here's an Amazing Spider-Man #1. And so this is definitely a red flag book that you should, just make sure that the book inside matches the notes and what's on the label. So it's a 0.5, slightly brittle pages, spine of cover completely split and cover detached. That's enough for me. I mean, I look at that and I say, okay, this is that book. This is a 0.5, and make sure that there's no, structural integrity issues with the case in any way, shape, or form. In this case, looks perfect, and so that one is good enough for me. Daredevil #1. This one is a 2.5, and it says extra staples added after manufacturing. So, and the centerfold is detached, and there's tape on cover and interior cover. So you can easily find the extra staples added after manufacturing, which is right here, and that is good enough. I mean, nobody's going to scam this book, because it's just clearly the book that was actually graded. So, I hope that this, I know a lot of people, seasoned collectors, are just, this was all just extra, they already know all this stuff. But I hope for people that are really genuinely concerned and worried and wondering, could it happen to any book? Does this mean all CGC books, are in question? And they're very valid questions, but the answer is no. It doesn't affect every single book, and there's things that you can look for. And there's also a really cool new feature that might be added to Go Collect that I just heard about, that they are going to have a photo verification of a book, and it'll verify photos of books that were sold with the same cert number, and that could be huge to identifying books that have been scammed. It could uncover, other bad actors maybe, and I think it's absolutely brilliant if they're able to pull off that technology and add it to their service, because I don't use Go Collect at all. I don't like their service. I don't like their pricing tool. And if they had that service, that feature, I absolutely would subscribe, and I would recommend that everyone do it. Anyone that buys slabs should be able to do that photo verification service. I think it would be monumental. So I really hope that comes to fruition. Thank you for sticking with me all the way to the end of the video. Don't forget to check us out over on Whatnot. Link down in the description for $15 towards your first purchase if you're new to Whatnot. We also have a monthly giveaway here on the YouTube channel. If you subscribe, comment, and like, you're entered to win that book. And if you sign up for the newsletter at brycecomics.com, you're entered to win one of the coolest Darkhawk books in history, signed and sketched by Swaggle himself, and you get first access to new collections like these when they come through. Thanks so much for watching to the end. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.